Welcome to Long Story Long. I'm your host, Lisa Curry. Today's guest is writer and actress Dani Fernandez. You may recognize her voice from Ralph Breaks the Internet, or you may recognize her writing from Netflix and HBO Max. Dani and I ended up talking a lot about mental health in this episode, which I think is very important. And I think you're going to like it. Check it out. Hey, Dani, how are you?
Hi, I am better now that I'm here talking with you.
Good. I'm so glad I got you today. I guess I'm just going to jump right into it. Are you from Texas? You are, right?
Yeah, I spent like a good portion of my life in Texas, so it's kind of hard. I have a lot of family in San Antonio. I have a lot of family that's from San Antonio, but I actually went to high school in Frisco, Texas, and then I went to college in Austin. So I moved there when I was like 12 or 13, and I spent my teenage years there and then my college years there, and then after college. And so those are kind of like the memories you remember the most, if that makes sense. Like I don't remember as much of my childhood as I do like middle school, high school, college. And so that's kind of, I also say y'all and have like, I don't know, I think Texas shaped me. So I feel like that's where it's hard to pinpoint it though, because a lot of my family, like both of my parents met in San Diego, got married in San Diego, their family's in San Diego. And so like, that's another portion of me, but I would say I know a lot more about Texas than I do probably a lot of Southern California.
I feel like wherever you spend your formative years is where is really home, you know? Because like you said, that is what shapes you. When you were growing up, did you know you wanted to go into entertainment?
No, but like there were inklings of it because I was a dancer, and I feel like that's so performative. Like I just was performing. My parents put me in dance classes, and I was on our drill team in high school, and that definitely prepares you for performing. It was like red lips, huge smile, like halftime at the football games, and like high kicks and just like competitions. And so a lot of that is entertainment. And so I guess
absolutely.
Yeah. So that, and then when I was in high school, I was published in like Teen Magazine for writing poems. I was like so angsty.
I love it.
And so like I was technically a published author when I was like a teenager, and I can't even look at some of those poems now. They're just so.
Of course. I've saved all of my old journals and notes and things, and sometimes I'll peek, out of curiosity, and I'm like, oh no, this is so bad.
Yes. Mine reminds me of like in Meet the Fockers or Meet the Parents or whatever, when it was like, these 3 things we pray to see thee more dearly. Like that was like how my rhyme scheme was, that I would just like, all my poems were rhyming like that. And so, but yeah, I always wanted to be a writer as well. So I think I would have continued to write even if I didn't choose it as a profession.
Is that what you studied in college?
In college, I actually applied to UT's journalism program, and I didn't get in. And I was like, I was pre-journalism, but they only take so many people in their actual broadcast journalism program. Like I wanted to be on camera, and they were like, no. So I actually dropped out. They're like, you have a face meant for web or something. Like, I don't know. Like they didn't let me in, but like one of my girlfriends made it in. And so she's an anchor now. And I honestly think I wasn't meant for that, because I feel they can't necessarily be their full selves online, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
You're representing like ABC News. And whereas me, I'm like tweeting dick jokes and things, and also serious things about like trauma or whatever, but I'm not beholden to anybody. And so I actually ended up being a kinesiology major because I loved, again, like fitness and sports and dance, and I wanted to work with athletes. And so that's what I did for several years of my life before writing like called me back.
Was it just your day job and you were writing on the side, or how did you make that transition?
I found Twitter when I was in college and would write like dumb jokes about my professors and stuff on there, and I started to develop a following. But my boyfriend was really jealous of how much time I spent on social media. because it was still like new at the time.
Yeah.
And it was weird to be on social media a lot, especially in Texas where like people are out and about and doing real life things and not in the entertainment industry. And so I deleted it. I like built a following, deleted it. And then I was going through a rough patch and like a severe depressive spiral, and I like re-downloaded it because that's what you do when you're sad.
Absolutely hop online immediately.
And I started writing depression jokes, which I still do to this day, and a lot of comedians followed me, and one was Roy Wood Jr., who I actually met when I lived in Denver. I moved to Denver for like a year, and he was at Denver Comedy Works, and
he's the funniest person.
Yeah.
I can't handle it.
He and I partnered for this pilot that I sold. He's the EP on it. He's the reason it sold. Like, he believed in it. He read it and he was like, why aren't you trying to make this? And he changed my life. But so we met like 7 or 8 years ago, and he just was like, you're funny. And a bunch of other comedians, like some of them DM me are like, are you okay? You know, they were like, 1, you're funny. 2, are you okay? Like, this is really rough, some of the stuff that you're joking about. But I realized one of them said, like, you will regret, like, you like writing. You'll regret, you're young. Like, you'll regret it if you never try to pursue writing.
Absolutely.
And so I moved out here. One of the things that I learned was somebody said, anyone who has promised you anything, it will not be here when you come out here. And that was like the best advice I'd ever learned.
I wish I had heard that.
Dude, we all deal with it where someone's like, oh, come out here. Like, I can get you an assistant job, or I'll get you this PA job. And like, those people suddenly ghost you. Like, I moved out here and I thought like, oh, I'll be an assistant. I'll grab people coffee. No, those are the most wanted jobs in this industry. Everyone wants to be a PA. Everyone wants to be a writer's assistant. Everyone wants to break in. And so I was really lucky that I got a job at the Ice House Comedy Club working the door, because I literally drove to Pasadena and handed them my resume in person. I just wanted them to see me.
It's like you have to do the extra thing just to get like a day job.
Yeah. They had like posted on Craigslist, and I saw it for some reason like the first week that I was here, and I was just like, I had barely any money saved up, and it definitely goes really quickly here. It's so expensive. And so anyways, that was a blessing. A lot of good things came from that job, aside from like meeting a bunch of other people in comedy.
Yeah. How long have you been in LA now?
I think 7 years. I think it'll be 8 in October. Yeah.
I feel like, and I don't know you well. I know you mostly from online, entirely from online. My perspective is like, you just can't stop succeeding. Like, and I know that there's a lot of struggle involved with that. But outwardly, I'm like, for 7 years, I'm like, you are absolutely killing it. Like, what are some of your favorite successes you've had in LA?
Definitely being a Disney character was the turning moment where I was like, this doesn't happen to everyone. Like, this has to be, there's so many times, countless times where I've wanted to give up, where I've, like I've said, I deal with depression, still deal with depression, still in trauma treatment. Like, I'm pretty open about those. And it just, Will Smith said something, and he was like, you can't out-achieve childhood trauma. And that's how I feel. So I think the reason why it's like, Dani doesn't stop is because I'm trying to like outrun that, if that makes sense. And all the people who didn't believe in me, including when I was growing up, and all the bullying, and like so many times that I had my first suicide attempt when I was like 13. And that's, and it was just like, I've done so much work, to one, I also just want to say an aside, like Latina teens have some of the highest suicide rates. It's like not talked about enough.
Oh my goodness.
And I don't know, like I just dealt with so much trauma that when I finally got a foot in the door, I was like, oh, you're not taking this away from me. And
you're gonna have to physically throw me out.
Yeah. And so when I got the thing with Disney, it was like, and I got to be animated and play myself and be like, hey, I'm Dani Fernandez, like in a Walt Disney film that ended up being nominated for like an Academy Award. I was just like, this doesn't happen to people, like to everyone. Like, I feel this is the universe trying to tell me, like, as rough as it gets and as dark as it gets, you are meant to be here. And so that was probably one of the biggest ones. And then selling my show, I wrote a show about, I ended up having another attempt in my mid 20s. And I wrote a show about like what happens when you're gifted another chance at life that you didn't want. And that's the show that Roy found. And he read that script and he gave it to his manager and they're like, let's make this. And HBO Max bought it. And like, that was another thing. I remember sitting one day and being like, this just doesn't happen to people. This has to be a reason why I'm here.
Absolutely. And it's also like everyone isn't dealing with the same demons or the same troubles. But I think life feels difficult for everyone.
Yes.
For different reasons.
Yes.
And, you know, I think a lot of people make the mistake of like when you're struggling, and I don't mean like suicide, but I mean like when you're struggling, they don't push through towards like goals or other things they want because they think, well, this is too hard. And it's, I don't know if I'm articulating this very well, but it feels like life is going to be hard whether you're in entertainment or whether you're working at Target or whatever you're doing. So you may as well go after what you're passionate about.
100%. I kept telling myself that before I moved out here. I was like, I can be poor here or I could be poor in Los Angeles, but I'm going to be poor. And so I was like, I might as well be poor in LA and like get to audition there and get to like, you know, and that's not for everyone. I want to say this town is definitely will eat you up and you have to have good friends. Like I found other people in the trenches. That's what people don't understand is I think they're always trying to like, I want to be friends with Jordan Peele and Ava and like, yes, of course. But a lot of people want to be friends with them and they have their own friends that came up through the trenches with them a decade, 15 years ago.
Yes.
You know? And so you need to be friends with people who are in the same position as you because you guys will end up rising together. And slowly but surely, my friends and I who were poor, who were working, you know, catering jobs. I was a nanny. I was a like name any job. And I worked out here. But like the friends that you meet that are also hustling and auditioning and submitting, then they get a job and they recommend you. And then you get a job and you recommend them. And like you're slowly climbing up the ladder together.
Absolutely. When I first started stand-up, an older comic told me, he was like, other comics will get you more work than any agent or manager ever will. And I just straight up didn't believe him. I was like, that doesn't even make sense. Like, I just didn't. It took me a while to understand that. And it's like, oh yeah, because people in the business are lazy. And so if they cast you in something, they're going to be like, Dani, do you have a friend that could do this other thing? I mean, that's an oversimplification, but I think when one person is talented, people really take their word for it that their friends and recommendations are talented.
That's true. That's true. I have done that as well for like Comic-Con. When I used to go to Comic-Con when I was little and it was like such a big deal to me. And then I started to get on panels and people will be like, oh, Dani, do you have like a recommendation for this Marvel panel? Someone that knows. I'm like, yeah. And I was just talking to someone, they're like, every single person you've recommended has been amazing. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to give you, it's my reputation.
Yes,
I'm not going to give you someone who's crap. But also I know the people who show up, who keep showing up, who are hustling, you know, who are trying to break in. And so we see it. We see the people who flake and who, you know, kind of like who have flaked on me a bunch of times. And I'm like, you know, I'm going to recommend the person who keeps showing up, who keeps proving that they want this really bad. And so, yeah.
And I think that's like, I think people underestimate being reliable with their friends because it's totally like, you know, like, yeah, I have a lot of friends that I care deeply about and I want to see succeed. But if they're not putting in the time and effort, then I'm like, well, then why am I buying stock in this? You know, it's just like you have to be reliable and be good and also like be fun to work with, you know.
That's true.
I think a lot of people, like, a deterrent for working in entertainment is a lot of people are like, well, you know, it's all about who you know. And it's like, right, but you can flip that and it can be a positive thing. And it's once you have the keys yourself, then you can bring your own friends in for your project. And it's the most fun and satisfying thing to work with friends.
Mm-hmm. I also wanted to say, going back to something you said earlier about like when people see when they're like in a really dark place and like dealing with success, is that you really don't something that I realized is people, you do not know what someone else is going through. Even if they're on camera, even if they're on, like, whatever it looks like their life is really pretty. Me being out here and working amongst these people, it's like, no, some of my friends that are on television have dealt with suicidal ideation. Some of them are crying like every day. Some of them have like massive chronic illness issues. Same with me. I have 2 chronic illnesses. And so it's just like, you do not know. And I think it's hard when you're in a dark place of like, why is this happening to me? This is only happening to me. Why can't this happen to this person?
Absolutely.
You know, this person on the red carpet, I see, blah, blah, blah. And it was like I had a moment like that where I just found out Erin Lim, who is a host at E!, gorgeous, tiny, like, you know, she came out that she has Bell's palsy, and she was talking about how she was having a lot of issues with her face, and she had to get work in acupuncture and have someone help her. And she was showing everyone like that her eyes don't close at the same, like she was just showing everyone on Insta. You would not know that seeing her on the red carpet, and you would think like, oh, her life is so perfect, must be nice being Erin. You know, that's not something I think, because I've worked with her and I think she's sweet and adorable, but I imagine people see just her Instagram, and you do not know what is happening in those people's lives. And so I hope that is helpful to people who, because I'm that person a lot of the times. When I was diagnosed, I was just like, why is this happening? Why can't it happen to this other person? What did I do to deserve, you know, throwing up before an audition, or having my hair fall out, or like all of these things? And it's just like you said, suffering is inevitable. No one gets out alive, you know, no one gets out of here alive. And it doesn't matter, you know, what you think you might know of them from following them on Instagram. You do not know some of the trauma that they've gone through. So
there is such a weird thing too with, you know, social media is so great that it allows you to connect with people that enjoy your work, but it takes away this barrier, this like, you know, not real barrier. Yeah. Where people think like, oh, now I know you because I know like your persona, and you don't. It's so weird. It's in like, I've definitely done that to people as well, where like years ago, I ran lights at Second City for a long time, and I would like be doing technical direction for people's shows. And then I would have these weird personal conversations with them. Like I knew them. I can't think of a specific incident, but I remember feeling like, oh, I'm being such a weirdo right now. Like I don't know them. I think I know them because I see them all the time, but I don't know this person, you know?
Yeah. I also think like, me being on what I've noticed is like having a check mark or whatever, like on Twitter, people really do not think I'm a person. Yeah. They don't think that I've suffered any trauma. They don't. And I just was having this conversation with Christina Ariel, who is an amazing actress and host. And she's the new host for Star Wars. She was dealing with a lot of hate from a ton of people. We were just talking about this, that like people really do not see you as a person. Yeah. And I kind of regret / am slightly bitter that I have to talk about my trauma so much so people will root for me. Like, I think it's actually kind of sick that people are like, oh shit, I forgot that she dealt with that. Well, never mind. You know, it's like, you know, or else they just think you're this pretty face that gets handed everything. And it's, I don't know, it's difficult. And I agree, but I definitely have noticed a trend of people just not treating humans like humans on social media. And
awesome. All right, we had a little technical issue there for a second. What was it like doing panel at Comic-Con? I've never been. I'm not in that world at all, but it looks really exciting.
It is. It's I like Comic-Cons because people are nice, and you know, I think a lot of fandoms get a reputation for being awful, and a lot of those people would never say that to your face at Comic-Con. So I think it's a lot of nice like fans, and everyone's really excited. And so it is kind of wild because I went to Comic-Con for the first time, I think I was 10 or 11, because again, my family's in San Diego, and I was going with my VHS tapes to get the Dragon Ball Z voice actors to sign them.
Yes,
and I love it. And that's the only reason I went. And then like a decade later, I ended up working for them, Funimation, who does the US dub and release of DBZ, they gave me my first ever hosting gig at Comic-Con. And
that's so cool.
So like came full circle for me.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's just really, it's nice to be amongst fans. It's nice that people care about what I'm saying, and that I have such like a history in that community that I can finally speak on a lot of those things. And it's also just nice to have a lot of people of color on those panels, because I feel we've kind of been kept out of a lot of fandoms for a really long time. And so it feels nice to just get to exist and geek out about those things.
Yeah. It is wild to think like it's very nice to see the way stereotypes are being broken down, and it seems like it's very slow. But I don't know, just that you were able to do what you do and what I'm not saying this very well. I'm like not articulating this very well at all. But like there's nerd groups in every community. That's just, there's all types of people in every community. And I think people are realizing that more. And honestly, it's a big place for those brands to cash in too.
I mean, that's true.
You know?
Yeah. We kind of call it a media con now, because it's like all the brands realize. And I don't know. I just remember they were like promoting Kevin Can Wait. And I'm like, this should not be here. Like, because they know a lot of eyes. Like, you know, there's hundreds of thousands of people there. And so, like they'll rent out the side of a hotel, like with a massive banner for like whatever's dropping on NBC that fall. And so it's just funny to me that like they don't even care anymore if it's like
something
geeky.
Completely unrelated. Yeah. It does seem like, I mean, I have a curiosity, but because I'm not in that world, I haven't tried very hard to go. So I'm like, it just seems like it's such a hard thing to get into, you know?
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
As far as like the fest and stuff. Do you do other cons as well, or like other Comic Cons across the country?
I've done a lot of panels at WonderCon, and I've also done Anime Expo, and mostly New York Comic Con. I've hosted at New York Comic Con, and that's always fun. It also like rains every year, and so this year they didn't get to have it because of COVID. But I remember the account, like the New York Comic Con account, tweeted and was like, "And it's not raining." They were just like, because we're always used to like being dressed up, and you have to like walk in the rain to the Javits Center. And this was like the one year it didn't rain, and they were like,
of course.
We're all indoors. Yeah.
How has it been participating in those things virtually? Is it difficult to put together?
Yeah. I mean, we're doing a lot of pre-taped stuff, because as we've seen with all these award shows, it's a nightmare to do it live. And so a lot of our Comic-Con panels, we pre-tape and then release it. So it's not the same, because we have no audience, and we have no one, we're not taking any questions, and I don't even know how many people end up seeing it or if it resonates with them. So it's not quite the same. Yeah,
I do find that I really miss the personal element of, because I'm like, for me, I'm not just, when I tell jokes, I'm like, I don't want you to just hear my joke.
Yeah.
I want it to be a transaction where like I feel somebody's energy. You know, that's such a huge component of it that we're all missing quite a bit now.
Yeah.
Do you feel more satisfaction with writing or with performing, or is it kind of split?
Definitely performing. I feel writing, you get a lot of cred though, like you get like, oh, she's intelligent, she's or whatever, like, so I feel kind of like that whole, yesterday everyone was tweeting about Lola Bunny, and it was just like, we made her not sexy, we made her strong, and I'm like, but I'm both of those things. But like, I feel if you're kind of marketed as sexy, which I have done for myself just because I was bullied about my body so much when I was growing up, that I decided, in this half of my life, I wanted to really celebrate it. Also just seeing more women and women of color celebrating their bodies, and it just, And so, but I feel a lot of men write me and be like, yeah, what do you do though? What do you do? Like, I'll post a picture and they're like, what do you do? And so I'm like, well, I wrote for the show on Netflix about journalism. I wrote on this show for HBO Max. I've sold a show to HBO Max. I wrote in The Good Immigrant USA. When they hear all your writing credits, all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay. Oh, that's interesting.
And it's so ridiculous too, because it's like, what if you were like, I just
hot?
like posting pictures of myself?
You're not allowed.
Shit,
You're not allowed. But like, at least by men, and some women.
Men
but
get
like,
so mad. I think because they can't be as hot as women, they're just like infuriated. They're like, well, I have to tear you down somehow. There has to be some way I'm superior to you.
Yeah. But that is something that I need to work on, because one, I shouldn't need to validate their response.
Yes.
And two, there are women who just do that, and that's okay. That's not me. And I think for some reason I have this like need to prove myself to people, which I shouldn't have, but that is a problem with me. That is not a problem with them. If that's all that those women want to do, that is fine. In fact, I applaud them. And like, for me though, I feel it's, as a television writer, I want people to respect me as a writer for the work that I've done. And I find it is difficult, if I'm sexier or posting thirst traps or whatever, for people to appreciate that I'm multi-dimensional, that I can do both of those things.
Yeah, it is a weird like block in people's brains, for sure, where they think like you can't be dynamic.
Yeah.
For some reason, it's like, yeah, I can do whatever. I can do a lot of things. Try me.
Yeah.
So your show that you just sold to HBO Max, that's the one. I'm sorry, I'm getting confused because we've talked about this a little bit before, but that is you're going to be in that as well, right?
Yeah. I actually can't talk about that show too much right now. Yeah. I can't
That's
like,
totally fine.
Okay. I'm like, there are like so many. Also, the other two shows that I wrote on haven't even filmed. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that either. But it's like all of these things that I've done the past 2 years, since 2019, I feel like I have nothing to show for them. I don't even know when some of these shows are going to come out. And so that's a little hard.
It's really frustrating because you don't get that extra satisfaction. It's like, sure, you get the payday, but
yeah, well, also, like, my IMDb is trash. I was talking to my showrunner about this, Amy Chosick, because she created the last two shows that I wrote on, and she was like, yeah, the last thing it has me listed is this book I wrote like about Hillary Clinton, like in 2016 or something. Like she has no, like, where she has sold and written like, 2 huge shows with Berlanti Productions, and they, they've done the Arrowverse, they've done they've done Riverdale, like huge things. And she, like, it's not listed on her thing at all because it's like those haven't come out. And so, yeah, we're kind of in this weird thing right now. And I just I feel currently I don't have anything to show for how much work I've done the last 2 years, but it'll probably be like a Pixar movie. They worked on Coco for 6 years, and then when it comes out, it's like, oh my God. And wins an Academy Award and all this stuff. But like for 6 years, you have nothing to show anybody. And that's really hard.
Yeah, because, and it's also going back to what you were saying, like where you're trying to prove yourself to people. I do that a lot as well. I get really caught up in that. It almost for me, it makes me feel panicked a little bit, where I'm like, I feel like I need you to know that I'm fucking doing something. Right. And I didn't just fall, because I think that there's also this thing with people outside of entertainment where if they're not seeing you put things out regularly, after a while they'll be like, are you still doing your little thing? Whatever that is. And you're like, son of a bitch. Yes, I'm still doing my little thing a lot, every day, all the time. Thank you so much. Thanks for your interest.
Yeah, I agree that it feels like we have to constantly be creating and putting ourselves out there so people remember us. And so my hat goes off to my friends that have deleted social media, who still manage to like work and write on shows, because I don't think I would be able to. I don't know. I just feel like I need to be in people's heads for them to remember me. Yeah.
There is a component of that, though, that I think is not just in our imaginations, you know, because there are so many things where, like, I mean, there's so many times where I've just emailed somebody just to say hi or whatever, and they're like, oh, well, you know what? Actually, since you're here, are you interested in this thing? And it's just because I'm fresh in their mind. And, and
I agree.
So I don't know if you have a story for this, but in your career path, is there something like incident's not the right word, but is there an event or something that happened along the way that felt either bad or insignificant at the time that ended up changing things for the better?
Yeah, I would say like not getting a job. I'm not going to say what television show it was, but I was very upset that I didn't get staffed on the show because I personally feel like my little brother could write on that show, and I was just like a lot of fart jokes and like, you know, very frat bro humor. And I grew up watching that show, and I know that show very well. And I was very upset that they also hire a lot of their friends. But two, I just was like, I can't believe I could not get staffed. I could not get staffed for the life of me. I was so upset. I just made my own show. I was like, because the thing that people don't realize is a lot of times these staffing positions, they want you to have a couple years of experience, and that does not make sense. I hope I never do that. I hope when I have the ability to staff my shows, staff writers should not need experience. That's literally why you're a staff writer. You shouldn't be a staff writer multiple years. I don't agree with that. I was a staff writer for 1 year. The next year on my next Berlanti show, they bumped me up to story editor. Like, that is how it should be. There's no reason your writer's assistant needs to be there for multiple years unless you're just trying to hold them back in their career. And that is literally, I heard from a person, their showrunner said that he does not promote writer's assistants. He said, if you're hired, yes, a prominent showrunner who said, if you're hired as a writer's assistant, that's why you're hired. I did not hire you to be a writer. If I want, you can leave and go be a writer someone else. And it's so frustrating, right? That's so upsetting. Yeah. So anyways, I couldn't get staffed. And some of my friends are dealing with that right at this very moment, where they're like, I don't understand this. They want you to have 2 to 3 years of writing experience. And like, I have not been staffed before. And so I ended up putting all of that energy and free time into making my show that I ended up selling. So I made an entire pilot for the show. I wrote out like possible 10 paragraph each for 10 possible episodes. I wrote out my character story arcs. I had my pilot ready to go, and I sold that show. And they bought the pilot, they bought my Bible, and I ended up getting staffed on the Berlanti show I was talking about on Netflix. And they believed in me. They took a chance on me. And in fact, Amy, who created the show, was like, I don't always need someone that has a bunch of experience. Like, I want someone with life experience.
Yes.
Absolutely. Which I had when I came in. Like, my pilot was about trauma, and estranged family and found family, and the family making therapy, like all of these things. And so looking back, I am so glad I didn't get into that room. One, I don't know if I belonged there. I don't know if they would have respected my voice as much, but I wouldn't have sold my show. I just know I would. I would have been exhausted and tired. I've been in writers' rooms. And by the end of the day, when you're getting home and it's dark and I don't want to work on my shit, I just want to lay on the couch and so I had all that time off to make my own show. And it is sad to me that it's easier to sell a show than it is to get staffed. It is so hard to get staffed.
It makes no sense.
Yeah.
It's truly insane, but it's also like selling a show is the bigger payday.
It is. But it's insane. And I just remember I was on a panel and the showrunner was like, well, you should be staffed before you sell a show. Like, you should have some experience. And I'm like, I agree. However, they're making it so damn hard. And these studios, it's not just the showrunner. It's a lot of times the studios, they don't know. Like, a lot of times the studio, because they have to sign off on you writing for the show that they're producing. And so it's a lot of times them. They're like, oh, we just went with a writer that has more experience. And so it just feels like a conundrum. And that's why a lot of times people's friends, they hire their friends. Like, that's one of the ways that people get in. And I didn't know anyone on my show that I ended up writing on. I was so lucky that they saw something in me. Or else I would have probably to this day never been staffed. Anyway, so yes, so that is sometimes some things that make you really upset and angry and sad end up fueling your future.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think that's such a great lesson that you just keep going and keep doing your own thing. And it's when I do that, it's definitely a fuck you. Yeah. I don't know if you have the same, but I'm just like, all right, then fuck off. Then I'll make my own thing, and it's going to be way better than that thing. And it's, I'm very spite driven, but I think that can work, you know. And it is so crazy that it's so hard to get staffed. And like you said, there is this catch-22 of like, you have to have experience to get experience. And it's like, well, then how do you get experience?
Yeah.
It's just such a ridiculous gatekeeper thing. But I'm really excited for you. I'm excited that you sold that and that you'll be working on that. Is there anything else you're working on right now that you're really excited about that you can talk about?
Well, I can't really talk too much about my stuff, but I just wrapped on writing on the HBO Max show that I was got to write under with Amy, and I am currently pitching a new show. And that I have also, it's very diverse, and I've written some of my friends. That is something I do. Again, it's a good thing to be good friends with people, because I've written some of my friends into my show, because I think that they're near and dear to my heart. And I also think that they deserve to be on screen and have very interesting stories to tell. So that is something. And I don't know, just auditioning. It's like a numbers game, but just like constantly trying to stay fresh so I don't get rusty. Yeah. Isn't
it also the most satisfying thing to be able to give your friends jobs, or to be able to like promote somebody? It's like, it feels as satisfying to me as getting work for myself, you know?
Oh, totally. Yeah. And when I started to write more and act more, I couldn't take a lot of the hosting gigs that I was doing. I've hosted for a lot of different places. So I got to recommend my friends, and that was nice because it made their life, like they were just so, I love seeing something that I might not necessarily, something that I might have outgrown, or I'm moving on to the next step that could be someone's dream. And so yeah, that's been great to see, is like, then all of a sudden they get in, and then their goalposts, that's what I feel like is our goalposts are constantly moving.
Yes.
Because I don't know if you're like me. I was like, oh, I just want this job. I swear to God, if I just get this job, and you get the job and you work there for a year, and then you're like, okay, I just want this job higher up than this job. Like, I want to be the showrunner now. I'm ready to blah, blah, blah. I want to be the creator. I want to be the star. I want to, and I just keep like moving my goalpost. And so it's great getting to give jobs to the people who were like me. They're like, I just want to write on the show. And then slowly see them being like, okay, I want to create my own show. And so, yeah, it's like a full circle. It is so nice.
I enjoy that hunger, though. I don't resent it. I think a lot of people, people that we look up to that are seemingly at the top of the mountain feel the same way, where they're like, all right, well, now I've done this. Can I win an award? Can I do this next milestone? Because there is so much out there that you can achieve. So it's like, why not go for all of it? But you can't do it all at once.
I like too that like Seth Rogen, who he went from like starring in things to producing things like The Boys and Preacher, to he just said like he's been working on his passion project for a decade and released a weed line. That means a lot to him. Yeah. That means a lot. And the decriminalization of weed and like all of these things. And so it's so fast, like his goalposts moved, and what he was doing. Same with Elizabeth Banks. Elizabeth Banks went from like starring in things to like, you know what? I think I've acted in a lot of things, and now I want to direct, and now she's directing. And so it's like, you're our goalposts once we achieve our goals. And it's like, well, I still have like a lot of time left in this industry, is like exploring what else you can do. And, Seth has made other people's dreams come true by casting them in The Boys, and by, and so it's just like being able to give that gift to other people who are struggling or hustling or need their big break. I think is really cool.
I think it's so important too to lift up people that are overlooked a lot, or that are new, because like you said, people don't want to take a chance on you. And then it's like the second you're successful, then everyone's at your door and they're like, oh, well, how can I get you to do this thing? And it's, which, I mean, not that I'm like that successful where people are like knocking on my door all day, but I've definitely had some people that passed me over that are now coming back around, and it feels a little bit gross. I don't love it. I don't love it, but then I'm like, I'm still excited for this opportunity. Thank you so much.
It's true. My Roy's manager, Norma Lodgem, who is also producing my show, he said everyone is rushing to be number 2. Like no one wants to be the first person to take a chance on you.
Yeah.
Everyone's rushing. Same with like Phoebe Waller-Bridge and Fleabag.
Yeah.
Like now everyone wants Phoebe, right? But like who is going to be the first person to let her do that and break the fourth wall? And like I wish more studios would let us take risks, because you would see more stuff like that.
Yeah.
I was like, why is there no show like that? I'm like, it's not like she's the first person that came up with that. It's just that most studios are like, no, I don't like this. Can you change this?
Yeah. Or people won't believe in something until they've seen it already done. It's like you were saying, it's harder to sell a period piece. I was reading this thing about Mad Men a while ago, and there's all these stories about shows that were shopped around everywhere. They were told no everywhere, and then Mad Men ended up on AMC, which was kind of like a bastard child at the time. It was like, what's this? It's not like a big network. I mean, it's a big network, but it's not, it
is now
NBC. Yeah, exactly. And then it became a beloved show, but it's like, it just takes somebody with the right eye or taking a chance on something,
Yeah. So I wish more studios would do that. They're still not quite there. I know, because I work with them. So they're still, it's still like, I don't know if we should do, I'm not really feeling this. Like she sees a ghost or there's a flashback or whatever, like anything that strays from the norm, they don't really like. Yeah. And it's like, why? Let's explore and see what we can make that's bizarre and weird, and maybe people will talk about our show. So yeah, I still think there's a lot of like the dampering down of creatives. So
yeah, absolutely. One last question for you. If your childhood self could see you now, like if 11-year-old Dani could see you and meet you, what do you think she would think?
She'd be like, why aren't you a vet? I thought you were going to be a vet. You love animals. I would be like, honey, it's because we found out we'd also have to put them down. Like, you don't just get to pet them. That's what I want. I was like, I just want to rescue animals. And like, I have to put them to sleep? Never mind. I think she would think it was cool I was involved in Disney. I still think that's cool. I still don't quite fathom it, because I've also done a lot of other things with them aside from Ralph. Like I've hosted with them quite a bit and done Comic-Con panels for them and whatnot. And so I was such a Disney baby, still a Disney baby, still have like literally behind me I have my Comic-Con framed
I love it
panel and this like official Ralph limited edition art from the movie. And like, I don't know, I have a Coco guitar over here. So I just grew up like a lot of us did in the 90s, like just fully immersed in Disney. And I think the fact that I get to do stuff with them and hope to create stuff with them is really cool. And so I hope that she would think that was cool.
That's awesome. I love it. I love that you said she'd wonder why you aren't a vet. It is also the saddest thing to think of. Like, no, thank you. I don't want to be involved in that. I only want to be involved in my dog living forever.
It's a necessary thing. And like, they do love animals. They love animals the most because they have to, put up with all different kinds, not just friendly animals, and, they're saving lives, but that is a portion of it. And so it takes a special person to be able to do that. And that special person is not me. So yeah.
I agree with you on that. Well, thank you so much for coming on. It was so nice to talk to you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for listening. Once again, that was Dani Fernandez. You can find her on Twitter and Instagram at Ms. Dani Fernandez. And I am Lisa Curry. You can find me on Lisa_Curry on Twitter and at olympianlisacurry on Instagram. Bye.